everyone. I'm Patrice Roach with Chatting with Patrice. Welcome to the show. My guest today is Mayor Pixley of Eastpointe, Michigan. What inspired you to write this amazing book?
Well, Patrice, there are just absolutely a lot of people that are, to me, unknown heroes. They're the people that form the background of a local community. So some of them are historical, some of them represent military, some of them are from the art world. But there's a lot of people that are kind of the unknown heroes. They're the people in the background that you don't see and you don't hear about most of the time. They're not the politicians. They're the people that are maybe the fiber of the community.
Yeah, I was very impressed looking through the book. You mentioned a lot of people. This was really great. I like how you really mentioned the business owners, the schools. I thought that was really nice.
Well, the publisher, Arcadia, does a lot of series of books, and what they're trying to do is to bring forward a great deal of the people that are not necessarily the people that everybody knows. And those are the people, by relating information about them, that you can describe their personality, and they seem to hop out and say, hey, I'm a real person here, and I'm a big, important person in this family community.
Right. Okay. Because a lot of times when we come to different cities, we never really see who really owns the Subway or who owns the Big Boys, which is one of my favorite restaurants.
Right.
Me and my granddaughter, we go to the Big Boys.
Right. Well, and that's one of the stories that I think is real interesting is that George Curris, he bought the property, but he worked really hard when he came here. He was a Lebanese immigrant who worked as a dishwasher for a long time before he saved money and he could buy a restaurant. But by the time he was able to buy one restaurant, he was able to buy 7 restaurants. And so what he did was to work with each one of his sons. So all of his sons, 3 of them, worked in the restaurant, as well as his wife, Millie. And so they worked really hard, and they ended up with 7 big boys. And then when it came time that we could do some more expansion, back in the 80s, then the family was also involved in purchasing the land and developing Eastbrook Commons. And Mike Curris, who is his oldest son, now owns that.
Okay. So his son now owns the Big Boy.
His son did own, he still owns the property, but he sold the business for the Eastpointe business. But he still owns one over on Mac in Vernier. But his other son still owns 2 of them, which is out in Chesterfield Township and in Mount Clemens. And then still more, his other son owns one out in near Belle Isle and another one in Dearborn. So they all still, it just passed on down the family.
That's great.
So it is a family story. And then another family story is Villas, because Villas came here in '56 with an Italian immigrant, and he brought his family, and his family kept the restaurant, ran the restaurant, still runs the restaurant. And so that's another success story, but it's all family. And then the other business that you probably haven't had a chance to use is Semrau's Greenhouses, and Semrau's are going to be 100 years old this year. And so for a business, a family business, to be here in a growing town for 100 years is a real story, I think.
Okay, Semrau's. I bought a fish tank from there.
Okay.
No, Semrau's is where you buy your gardening.
Your gardening stuff.
Okay. Oh, I used to go there. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I used to go there. Okay.
This year they will be 100 years old.
Okay.
So it's very unusual that a business stays open for that period of time. But it's a long, true success story, I think.
And it's very beautiful.
And also our bank. You know, our bank started here back in 1917. So in 2 years, that's going to be 100 years, right near the same intersection at 9 Mile and Gratiot.
Oh, okay. Now is that Michigan First?
No, it's not. No, it's First State Bank.
It's First State Bank. Great. Did you always have a love for writing?
I did. When I was in high school, I took journalism classes, and so I ended up writing in the school newspaper, and at first they put me as a sports writer. Can you imagine me running down, chasing the track team and the football team and all that? And then I became a feature writer, and then I became a columnist. And I thought, wow, and this was a personal opinion column, and they let me do that. And once in a while, I would end up in the principal's office, you know, and he would say, oh, come on, you know, you didn't need to express quite that much opinion, but it worked. And then I became editor-in-chief, so that was very nice. And during my junior year in high school, we were allowed to write essays, and one of the essays was for the Odd Fellows, and they had a trip that took us to the East Coast. And on the East Coast, we went to the Columbia Press Convention, which was at Columbia University. And then I was also able to tour the United Nations.
At high school?
In high school. So the trip to the East Coast, where I went to the United Nations as well as to Washington, D.C., and meet the Supreme Court Justice and so forth, was really phenomenal. And I think maybe that's where I developed somewhat of an interest in politics.
Wow, that's great. What was your childhood like?
Well, I grew up here in what was East Detroit at the time. My grandfather moved out here in 1910. He bought a farm on the corner of Stevens and Grove, and he really didn't farm it except to garden it. He was not a big farmer. He was a shoemaker. He ran a big shoe manufacturing business in downtown Detroit, but he wanted to live out in the country. He didn't want to live in the city, so he bought this farm, and as a result, he sold each one of his kids a lot and a half for $1. And my father built on his when he found the girl of his dreams. And that's the house that they lived all their life. And when my mother turned 85 and she needed some help, I moved back here to stay. So I'm living in the house I grew up in.
Your mother's
which
85?
is on my grandfather's farm. No, my mother died a few years back.
Okay, she died a few years back.
Yeah. And what was it like living here? It's very interesting. A little bit different than what it is now. A little bit more countrified. Lots of fields. Lots of fields. We had a couple golf courses here. We had a couple horseback riding stables, things like that. So it was fun. It was good, but you know, we still had parental controls. I think one of the things that's maybe a little bit different is when we lived on the street, we had exactly probably a mother in every house. And so if you had limits that you couldn't go past one street or beyond a certain limit, if you went back there, they knew they would stop you. You were never in trouble because all the mothers in the neighborhood were on your back all the time. We had a great time. We, you know, played a lot, did a lot of hockey, played in the parks a lot. It was fun.
So you have more of a childhood background, so to speak. It takes a village.
Yes. Yes.
To raise a child.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It took a village, yeah.
Great.
All the mothers, you know, because it was, maybe not all the mothers were working at that time. So the mothers were always available to be out there and watch the kids. And we watched the kids and they played with the kids. It was a good time.
Awesome. Who are some of the people that has committed to your success, contributed to your success?
Oh, I think teachers in high school are a real pivotal group. Teachers in grade school are the ones that kind of nurture you and put you in the right direction, but I think it's the teachers in high school that guide you along, motivate you, find out where your interests are, and guide you to accomplish those interests that you have.
That is so true. That is really true. I had a 5th grade teacher, and her name was Odessa Branch. I'll never forget. I've been looking for her for quite some years too. And she was my inspiration. I wanted to be just like her. And she pulled me to the side one day. The whole class had left. And she said, come here for a minute. I want to tell you something. She says, never be a follower. Always be a leader. You know, and follow in the footsteps of someone that's great, has been great, you know, and it always stuck in my mind. It always stuck in my mind. So, and I've tried to do that.
See, everyone has somebody that can motivate you and point you in the right direction.
And I was actually in the 5th grade then, 5th grade.
And I think one of the leading people, and I did put him in my book, and particular book, and was a John Enright, who was a journalism instructor. And I was very fascinated. He was also my history instructor, and he taught me a lot about American history, and he created an interest in American history. He had been in the landing at Anzio in Italy during World War II. He had been taken a prisoner by the Germans. He had served 2 years as a prisoner of war. And when he came back, he went to journalism school at Columbia in New York. And then he ended up in East Detroit High School and teaching journalism. And he was he was really interested in kids, and he gave us a lot of direction, and he really set the bar high for us to accomplish a great deal. Very unusual that high school newspapers actually go to press. So as editor, he had to lay out the newspaper and take it up to the printers and do all the proofreading and all of those things. And our newspaper won top awards, All-American awards, the top 5 across the country. So he set the bar high, but he really stimulated an interest in writing.
That's good. Now, what year was this book?
That was printed in 2013.
2013. Okay, and you wrote a book before that book.
Right. The initial book was part of the series, Images of America, and it was published in 2003, November 2003. And I had a great time doing both of those books because I wanted to dig out some of the history, some of the unknown facts of the city of Eastpointe. And the pictures were available. Back in 1976, there was a big effort to celebrate the bicentennial, and a historical society had been formed, and they had collected a number of pictures. And I was able to use a lot of those and then to add to that with what people donated for use in the book.
Okay. How many books have you written total?
3. So the third book will be out March 23rd, and that's Images of Modern Eastpointe. And that
Images
one.
of Modern.
So, and they called modern the last 50 years. So, and it's all in color, whereas these were printed in
white.
sepia or black and white. The new book in March will be all in color.
Okay,
So
great.
it's a little bit more difficult to do a book all in color because you have to have some really top quality photos. They have to be scanned at a certain, they have to be scanned as TIFFs and not full size and 600 resolution. So it's a little bit tougher to put that book together, but it's done, it's in production, so I'm excited about that.
Great. What's that book based on?
This book is based on modern times. So it's a lot more of the historical transactions. And so I went back to the 1970s is what they asked me to go back, looked at the political aspects, what was happening, looked at the community, the neighborhood groups, the different ways that people entertain themselves. And I had a lot of fun doing the last book, that's the one that's to come out. I'm also doing 2 other books. I have a publisher contract to do one about my School of Nursing, which will be out probably next June. And then there's another one that'll be coming out. One of the things when I did the research on this is I came across a man named Nicholas Ames who had a general store at the corner of 9 Mile and Gratiot. And then later his son sold that general store that had been quite successful and moved into the horse trading business. And then when there were no more horses and the cars were coming down Gratiot, then he switched over and he developed a big hardware store. So the book is about Nicholas and his family, and he had a big role in developing our schoolhouse. Our halfway schoolhouse has received national recognition because of the architectural design. So I always wanted to know who was the architect and how did it get to be that way. So I'm doing the research on that, and I'm having a great time doing that one. Every time you turn around, there's something new that fits right into that puzzle.
That's fantastic. Mia Pixley, what do you do for fun?
Oh, I have a lot of fun. I love to travel. I have 5 kids. And at one time, I had one daughter in Korea, another one in Japan, and another one in Guam. So at times when I went to visit the daughter in Korea, I bopped down to Guam and toured Guam, and then we all went to China. So that was a fun trip. And then the one that was in Guam moved to Japan, so I was able to see her. They're all stateside now, so. But so I enjoy my kids. They're really great kids. So that's my spare time, and then I'm also involved with the Historical Society and a couple other community groups.
Wow, that's great. Did you visit, while you were in China, did you visit any of the statues?
No, we didn't get to that time. We pretty much stayed because it was my daughter, her husband, and my 2 grandchildren. So we pretty much explored Beijing for the whole time, but that was phenomenal. It was a great experience.
The reason why I asked is because I do yoga, and in China, it's very, very huge. It's a very huge thing there to practice yoga. So that's why I asked.
No, but we did go to see the Chinese Acrobatic Theater, the National Theater, to see all the children, and a lot of those start off initially as yoga and then move into some really tough acrobatics, gymnastics. So that was an opportunity.
Great. Why have you succeeded in a field where so many other people have failed?
Well, I think that I have a lot of the community people that I know that we've been able to work together. We've been real successful in this city at accomplishing a great deal on very little. When the real estate market fell down, our funding for our city fell down dramatically, and so we've had to scrimp and save and push and pull and still keep the services that our community needs and requires. So we've worked together really well. We've had some great leadership and some great people working with us. Our city hall employees, our city employees are absolutely fantastic. They do a great job all the time.
Isn't it great to have such gratitude for the little things, and those little things grow into something huge?
They mount in total to something big.
Yes, they do. Great. What's the magic formula for success? What do you think it is?
Hard work. I think knowledge also. This morning I was doing report card conferences. Every quarter they ask community leaders to go over to the high school and work with the high school freshmen and talk about their report card grades and give them some inspiration and motivate them to do better or whatever. So it was real interesting this morning to talk to some of the kids and find out what motivated them, what did they want to do, and then also to stress that it takes education, not just hard work, but it takes education, knowing the right way to do things or to learn various ways to accomplish one goal. So that was really fun working with them. Always is. Always a challenge.
Yes, it is when you're working with children.
Well, teens especially.
Oh, they were teens? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and sometimes when they have 27 absence and they don't think that's a problem, 27 absence in a quarter is a lot.
It is.
So, you know, if you're not going to learn anything if you're not there.
At school, if you're not at school. Right. I understand that. Mayor Pixley, when you were campaigning to become the mayor of Eastpointe, what was the most hurtful, untrue rumor spreaded about you? Positive as well. Something
well,
positive
you know,
as
there's
well.
always a lot of negative rumors, but you have to live on what you know to be true about yourself. And you have to change whatever negative is into a positive. But I think the worst thing that anyone can do is to take a negative and respond with a negative against them.
It is.
So there was someone that did cut me down and they did slash my throat, and that's okay. But my kids were more upset than I was. I said, you know, you just have to stand on who you are and what you represent and go forward. And I won. So.
That's so true.
And actually, when the local public saw the negative things, they don't hate that kind of stuff. They hate it.
And then when you didn't respond to it.
Right.
Because what we put out is what we get back. So it's like a full circle. If you respond to negativity, then it just comes back to you. And it's
but
not
if you don't
worth
respond
it.
to the negative, it'll die.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
And I've told my kids that all the time. As they go through life and they're in job positions, if someone says something really negative, just let it go. You have to stand on your own, and you have to present a quality
That's true.
face.
And remain true to yourself.
That's right.
Remain true to ourselves. Nothing, and nobody can cut us down or tell us anything different because we know within ourselves who we are.
That's right.
So that's a good thing.
That's right.
So you taught all 5 of your children that?
Oh, yeah. There's a few things. I have 4 girls. I also told them 4 girls and 1 boy, but I told my girls, I don't care what you do with your life. You have your own dreams. You follow your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is I never want to hear any one of you be a wimpy, whiny woman. And sometimes I'm sorry I said that because they're sometimes like bulls in china shops. But they've been able
no
to.
Self-pity.
No self-pity. You know. No, there is no self-pity in this world.
That's
You just
right.
move forward. Whimper a bit and then move forward.
That's right. I was watching a show one time, and a lady was on there, and I thought this was so nice. She had a cousin. She had been through a very tumultuous experience, and she had a cousin, and the cousin told her, you have 5 minutes.
To moan and groan.
That's it. And after 5 minutes, then we need to move on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that that's so important to move forward because you can get stuck.
Right.
You can get stuck right there.
Right.
And so it is. It's good to move on. It is.
So this is the experience of my personal life. Is I put my husband through dental school, and we were in the Air Force, and we were stationed over in Turkey when suddenly he decided he didn't want to be a wife, and a husband. He didn't want to be a father anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I have 5 kids, and they're 9 months to 8 years. What is it you want us to do? And he said, I don't know. I'll give you $1,500. You can go back to the States, get use the money for a down payment on a house and a car. Well, $1,500 wasn't going to do anything. So I took my kids, flew back to the States, got a house, a car, and a job in exactly 18 hours.
Really?
So I figured.
And what job was that?
I went right back into nursing, and I had good credentials behind me, so I became a ICU nurse and worked my way up into nursing management. And I rented a house, and I took over somebody's car payments, and moving on.
ICU
So-
nurse. Wow.
So I whimpered for an hour.
An hour?
An hour.
That's long enough.
Yeah.
Really it is. Because you can get off into the self-pity and
What
the
it-
resentment.
What
And,
is
oh,
what
geez,
is
it's not
what
even
is the
worth
sense? And when
it.
you have your kids need to know. So it wasn't that I kept my kids in contact with their father, and we moved on through life. So,
That's good. And look where you are today.
and all my kids have finished college. 2 of them have masters, and my son is has a Microsoft engineering certificate. So they're all
That's great.
successful.
You did a really great job.
Thank you.
Good job. Where do you feel most at home?
At home, at the house where I grew up. At the house where I grew up.
You live in the house you grew up
Yeah,
in?
in my backyard.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is like home.
And we
That
have
is home.
we have a community garden here, and I guess I like to garden, and so I feel real comfortable in the community garden also. We've got some great people working in the community garden, and it's kind of nice to go out there and pick my tomatoes and green peppers.
It is. Well, you don't have a garden at home.
Oh, just a flower garden.
Okay. Did you have a garden at home
When I
you
was
were
a kid?
A kid?
Oh, my God, yes. We had 3 lots, and
I did too.
yeah.
It's a great experience.
It is.
It really is. You can just go outside and just pick a fresh fruit or fresh whatever and just say, okay, here it is. I don't have to go to the store.
Yeah, I just picked the last of my kale. So I was at lunch today. I was making a salad from the last of my kale. I still got my last of my green peppers and all that. Yeah.
Right, healthy. So you were introduced to healthy eating at a
Oh
young
yes,
age.
yes. My mother was Belgium, so yeah, you ate healthy all the time.
Great. What do you like least about your professions? You have several. You have a really broad background. So your professions, when I say
Well,
professions, I mean
I'm a nurse.
writer.
I'm a nurse as an occupation. So I was a nurse, and And then I went back to school and became a teacher and a certified teacher in secondary and post-secondary. And then I had doctoral studies in urban planning and development. And so I like all of them, but I like the urban planning and development now because it allows for a great deal of creativity, and the classes that I had at Michigan really tie into the job that I have now as a mayor. And even though it's a part-time job, it's a full-time job.
What university did you attend?
Michigan?
Michigan State University?
No, University of Michigan.
University of Michigan?
Yesterday we had a meeting at the University of Michigan, a SEMCOG meeting, and they gave us a behind-the-scenes tour, and they allowed us to go out on the field. So I was actually able to go out on the 50-yard line, and that was the first thing on my bucket list when my husband went to dental school, was that I wanted to go on that 50-yard line, so I was very excited about that.
Great.
I also, and this is real crazy, but in this book, one of the people that I put in here was Ron Kramer, who was an all-star athlete for the East Detroit High School. And he was an all-star athlete at the University of Michigan, and then also at the Green Bay Packers, of course. And but his locker is still there, and they allowed me to go see his locker, take a picture of myself sitting in his locker. So I was feeling really good yesterday.
Do you feel the citizens of Eastpointe has welcomed you to their home?
Well, you know, we have a changing group of people that are moving in here, and I think that most of the local people accept me, and we get along very well, and I work hard to make them feel comfortable and welcome in the city. So we have a harvest festival as an example, and I paint pumpkins with hundreds of kids that come through there painting pumpkins. And we do various arts and crafts at the children's gardens, so you get really involved with them.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pixley. This was really a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and
Absolutely.
I'm so pleased that you came out to Eastpointe for the first time ever.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.